Hi, I'm Mann, and this is Sony Xperia Storytelling. Today we're going to work on finding your voice, style, and purpose using Sony's newest Xperia smartphones. But before we get started, I thought I'd share a little behind the scenes of what it's like to be a Sony artisan of imagery, traveling the world documenting our changing planet. So people ask me why go through what you go through. Crossing the Drake Passage in 40-foot seas, or swimming with crocodiles, or swimming with sharks. I do it so when someone asks me, what is it like in the ocean? What is it like in Antarctica? I can show them the most beautiful place in the world. And in most cases, an image or a short story is the only way someone's going to ever experience a place as wild as the open ocean. And we shoot the images we do so that when people open the pages of National Geographic magazine and they look at that image, that they're immediately transformed, so that they can have empathy for that subject, so that they can care for it. And I shoot the images I do to give a voice to the voiceless, for those images to speak on their behalf. In today's day and age, smartphone media has changed the way that we tell stories and has changed the way we view and understand the world around us.
Sea Legacy is not just Paul and I, it's this large community of people with the same inspiration to restore health and abundance to our oceans. And we need an army of storytellers. So we're excited to deploy this army of magic makers around the world.
There he is.
How's it going, buddy?
Hey guys, good to see you.
Very excited to pass the baton on to you.
There's a lot of intel coming in from Central America that Costa Rica is looking to expand Cocos National Park, and so now's the time to go. This is an opportunity for the world to create the very first interconnected international marine park in history.
Cocos Island, 300 miles off Costa Rica. It has all this mystique and mystery surrounding it. Pretty treacherous, there's shipwrecks around here. You show up this time of year, it's the rainy season, so it's always veiled in clouds. Its history is really known for its buried treasures and pirate history, and it's like the original Treasure Island. It's eerie, but it's beautiful. I mean, that's why it's so green, it's so lush, it's so full of life. And it's one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. As soon as you go underwater, all that stuff just multiplies and amplifies. One of the first people to come dive here and document this place was Jacques Cousteau. He said this was the most beautiful island in the world. I think he called it the sharkiest place in the world. This place has always been a benchmark in the Pacific for the health of shark populations. If Jacques could see what it looked like now, it would be devastating. This place was just fished. It was unregulated for so long. It wasn't even until the 2000s that any part of this ocean was protected. So you just think about how many ships fishing all day long on these popular dive sites, and they're drifting their long lines into the park. They're catching everything. Think of the impact that that can have. I've met up with biologist Randall Adaruz, whose shark tracking expeditions have resulted in priceless data that informs the protection efforts.
Yeah. Because this will tell you how close you are to a shark that you can follow it in a boat.
You know, I produce this information, and then as a scientist, it's my duty to publish it. But it gets published in scientific journals, and
Who reads these scientific journals? Other scientists. And that's where we really need the help of communicators like Andy, because those images that capture the feeling that we need to transmit.
The people that I want to be inspired, to be hit emotionally, are people that sign these into laws. And if they can connect just in that moment with the image with some pride, that can help inform their decision. They could be like, yes, we can't lose this.
But getting these images and getting that tracking data is very difficult.
I can't control a camera properly in these conditions. You're holding on for dear life in ripping current. In most cases, you just have one hand. I'm usually like a manual shooter. I want to control ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. I'm letting the A1 make all those decisions, including focus. It's been awesome. It's better if you're focused on being a good diver. Let the camera make the decision. But yeah, I mean, we've had dives where we saw 0 sharks at the sharkiest place in the Pacific. Conditions, you never know, but you should be able to see sharks here. I don't know what's going on, but basically as void of life as I've ever seen Cocos Island. But things change quick around here. I mean, we'll keep circling the island, we'll find the good conditions, we'll find the sharks, and hopefully get what we came here to shoot. Things have not gone our way. Crashed a drone, we flooded a housing, we've drifted off dives. It's been incredibly challenging. We're trying to keep morale up, but everything hedges on the outcomes of these expeditions. It's just struggle, 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 and then boom. Huge schools of jacks with like 100 sharks, and I'm right in the middle of it. One of the biggest wildlife scenes I've ever been part of. So let's talk about using Sony Xperia to create the stories you want to tell. My advice is to go out and use these cameras like you would a professional camera. At least try to. Because there's a bridge that needs to be crossed between what is considered smartphone media, which is run and gun, behind the scenes stuff, and the capabilities that this thing can actually do for you. So in order to test that theory, I went with 2 professional climbers, Maddie Hong and Margot Hayes, and we went up to Rocky Mountain National Park to try to make images. Not to try to tell a story or document rock climbing, but to try to make images that I want to make, that I would want to make with a medium format camera. And I think this was the real marriage of the power and usability of this camera, was to be able to go on an adventure, go into a place where having something that's light and fast in my hands allowed me to get images and angles that I wouldn't otherwise be able to get with a bigger camera. And to be able to think about crafting images the way I would think about crafting an image with a Sony Alpha camera, which is using the best athletes in the best location, finding the best angles and shooting in the best light. And if you think about your smartphone imagery that way, and you're gonna start finding that in a lot of situations, those images are available all around you all the time, and that powerful tool is always in your pocket. So you're gonna start finding yourself making professional images with your smartphone. My name's Andy Mann. I'm a Sony artisan. Today we're taking the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III up into the Rocky Mountains to shoot 2 very famous rock climbers, Maddie Hong and Margot Hayes, on a classic route called Edge of Time. We're setting out today to make images. We're not documenting rock climbing. We want to make an image that inspires other people to get outside, inspires other people to tie in and go rope climbing, inspire friends to go have fun in the mountains, and inspire photographers to do this kind of thing, which is hedge the best light, hedge the best climber, find the location, and make the image you want to make. Look, I love a good challenge. We're going up there with the smartphone today, but of course I would go up there with my big cameras. But that's not the point. The point is that this phone can take amazing pictures. How amazing can they be? You don't know unless you take it out. You take it on a real adventure and try to make some images that you would love to make with a Sony Alpha camera. The versatility was really awesome to have today, and more than anything, it was an excuse to get outside and be in the mountains, which is amazing. Super grateful and super fun day, and I hope everyone loves the images we got. With the Xperia 1 Mark III, it's so easy to take high-quality images wherever I go. The images we got from that shoot were some of my favorite climbing images that I shot this year. I think partly because I slowed down a little bit. I started to think of the smartphone not necessarily as being a pocket camera, but how can I use the power and the technology in the smartphone to make professional images that I can be proud of. Perhaps my favorite feature in the Sony Xperia line is the Pro Photo app. It's the ability to be able to open an app and go in and have complete control over my camera. I can change shutter speed, I can change focal point, I can change my autofocus, I can change my exposure, my ISO, I can change my white balance, and I can change my aspect ratio. That gives me complete control over my camera, which is something that I could only do in a Sony Alpha camera before. Being able to have complete control over your camera really allows you to optimize the things that Sony put in this camera that make it special, which is the sensor, which is the low light capabilities, which is the burst mode, which is the 3 Zeiss lenses. Having control over your camera allows you to have control over the story you're trying to tell. So let's talk about why this is such a powerful tool. One thing that Sony did was they snuck in all this Sony Alpha technology, all these professional tools into this phone, and now they're in here and they're easy to use. You don't even know what's happening. So things like using Zeiss optics and Zeiss coated glass, is something that a normal consumer wouldn't even know how truly amazing that is to be in a smartphone, And you see it in the images, you see it in the post-production, you see it because you're shooting raw. And you're able to open that image up and see all the data that's available in an image you would shoot with a Sony Alpha phone. As a professional photographer, I can't keep up with the technology, right? And it's not my job to keep up with the technology. Because if I'm making creative decisions and I'm framing and I'm trying to find the moment, I'm relying on the camera to do what it needs to do to document the images. Most people document their lives with a smartphone. It's the way we share our lives on Instagram, it's the way we share our lives on Facebook, it's the way we share our lives amongst a group of friends. And it's an exciting time to be able to document and share your life because this is a powerful tool that's in your pocket. And, but it's only powerful to those that know how to tell a good story. The story is coming through you, it's not coming from you. So how do you recognize a good story and how do you tell it? I like to look at a story as a landscape on a canvas, like a painting. You don't want to bring someone right to the heart of the story right away. You want to sort of document the periphery of the story you're trying to tell. What's happening around the story, what's happening on the periphery of the story, because that's generally where the story is happening. It's important to look at the different angles of your story. Engage with this story. Who are you trying to reach? Do you want them to be inspired? Do you want to drive them into action? Do you want them to laugh? Do you want them to cry? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself before you start telling your story. You used to be able to pick up a smartphone and just document. Now you pick up the smartphone and you can make a quick creative decision. And that's a big deal for a professional photographer, anyone that wants to step up their game. It's still point and click in a lot of ways, but you have more control. You have more control of the images that you want to take. You have more control on post-production. Be a hybrid between a run and gun photographer and a professional photographer. And that's kind of the sweet spot because it allows you to get these candid moments that tell real life stories and bring people behind the scenes of the work that I do and the work we do at Sea Legacy. So all the behind the scenes is shot with a smartphone. It's just, that's the tool that's with you. It's the tool that's in our pocket. You don't have to, all the cameras are packed away in Pelican cases. We're flying around the world, but we're documenting that. Because that's an important story to tell too. The story behind the shot. What does it take to tell these stories? The ups and the downs, that's the real story. And that's all told with this. My name is Andy Mann. I'm a Sony artisan of imagery,
My type of work focuses on travel, adventure, and conservation. The Xperia 1 Mark III is that alpha power device that you always have right there in your pocket. It gives you the ability to capture alpha quality images and video at the ready, when your camera isn't always an arm's reach away. I've always sort of shot half my images with my smartphone and half with my Sony Alpha series. This is the perfect blend of both. This trip to Panama was a scouting mission with Christina Mittermeier for Sea Legacy. Our goals were to arrive on Coyaba Island, photograph the beautiful island, do interviews, photograph government officials on location, being ambassadors for their ocean. We needed to be light and fast and to document on a scouting mission that was full on, sun up to sundown, run and gun. It was an absolute pleasure to be able to work with a camera as small as the Xperia, and I'm just as happy with the images. I love the dynamic range of this camera. What you're seeing is as close to Sony Alpha professional imagery as I've seen yet. These images are final takes for me. A lot of the scouting images we shot in Panama, I don't plan to reshoot. I mean, there's something about being there in the moment that you cannot recreate. When those moments happen, if you have the Xperia 1 Mark III in your hand, you are going to get the image you want to take. The Xperia 1 Mark III is an essential piece of gear in my quiver. The alpha quality capability in your pocket when on assignment in remote places all over the world is second to none. The stories I'm telling about these remote places that need to be protected, I want people to feel like they're on expedition with me. I want people to feel like they're on the journey with me. And being able to document real time, all the time, seamlessly with the Xperia, it allows me to do something that's less polished, that's more authentic, that's more real. You're going to throw a wider net out to your audience. You're going to interest people more. People want to know what it's like. What is it truly like? And a lot of that doesn't come through with the big cameras when you have a set and people are scripted and you have control over the narrative. I don't want control over the narrative. I want to be able to tell the story two ways. I want to be able to deliver something scripted to the person I want to deliver it to, and I also want to bring people along on the adventure. So I use the Xperia 1 Mark III a lot. This is kind of my go-to camera, just because it's so well-rounded. It does everything so well. But when I want to really, truly try to take professional images, I use the new Pro I. I mean, this thing is just the next level. It's the world's first native 4K 120 smartphone. The eye autofocus and object tracking focus is a step up from all the other phones. And it has a triple array of Zeiss lenses, a 16mm, a 24mm, and a 50mm lens. And it shoots 12-bit RAW. And what's most important about the Pro I is they took the sensor out of this camera and they put it in here. And that matters. The sensor is everything. That's where all your information and data lives. You want to use the biggest one possible, and you want to use as much of it as possible. And they've dialed this in. So this is the next level. This is the step towards the Sony Alpha camera that truly is making a mark. I mean, the best part of using a smartphone like the Xperia to document your life is that it's easy. It's that it's fast. It's that it's portable. It's that it's non-invasive. You know, I bet 90% of the images I take in my life are taken with the Xperia, with the smartphone, just because it's in my pocket, it's right there. It's quick, it's fast. And it allows me to get the images that I want to get, which are candid moments, which are moments that are natural and unscripted. And that's the advantage of being able to get a tool like this in a scene or in a moment to capture those images right away. You know, without the setup of a big camera system, because those moments are so fleeting. And those are the moments you hang on to. Those are the moments that have the most power. And with me, it's my family. You know, it's being able to be in the moment with my family, get the images
that have that candid, natural feel, that remind me of being there, that remind me of what it was like to be in the garden with my daughter or be out wrestling with my son in a field. You know, the images that I take there, I want to feel unscripted. I want to feel like they're almost taken by a third party, because I want to look back and think, I didn't sacrifice that moment to get a shot. I was in that moment and I got the shot. And that's the power of having a tool this small. I think 95% of the images I take with my family with a smartphone. It just is. They say the best camera is the one you have with you, and I always have my smartphone with me. Every year I take all the images that I captured with my family and I print a book. Most of the images are smartphone images, because
Took a good picture.
like when the moments happen when like I feel like my family's the most playful, the last thing I want to do is like organize a photo shoot, like go get a big camera and try to like recreate things. Like I don't want to disrupt the magic of like being with my family and those magical moments that happen just once. Like I want to be, yes, I want to document those moments, but I want to be as present as possible. And I feel like just being able to like get a shot that looks as good as it does and like put it back in my pocket and continue to play with my. Probably most people document their lives on smartphones, and so it only makes sense to me to use the best technology possible. So you're going to get the best images possible, so you can remember these memories forever. And now's the time to be a storyteller. Now's the time to be a photographer. Now's the time to be a filmmaker. Because the world needs us to keep telling these stories. Because when you publish a powerful image, someone somewhere in the world who would otherwise never have the opportunity to go to a place as wild and remote as the Arctic or the open ocean will now dream of it. And that's the power of good storytelling. I think the point of all this is to inspire you to go tell your story, because nobody sees the world the way that you see it. And why is that important? Because your vision matters. The way you see the world matters. Because you see it authentically. And you see it differently than everyone else. And if you can document that and you can capture that, you allow other people to see the world through your eyes and through your vision and through your voice. And that matters because that builds empathy, because that crosses bridges, because that connects us. And that's where the growth as a storyteller is going to begin. It's the first time that you are vulnerable enough to tell the story that you think matters to you, and you may not think it matters to other people. People are going to feel it. It's going to be powerful, it's going to be meaningful, and it's going to bring you a lot of joy in your storytelling. So get out there and start telling stories.